Shalom, shalom, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pulse of Israel here in our eternal and ancestral homeland, the land of Israel, in our beautiful, biblical, eternal, and indivisible capital, Jerusalem, since King David's time. So I've been interviewing different representatives of some of the different parties running for the World Zionist Congress, which in essence is the parliament of the Jewish people. It is the historic organization that ran the Jewish state of Israel before the Jewish state was established in 1948. And even though since 1948 we have a government of Israel, the World Zionist Congress still exists. It has different organizations underneath it, billions of dollars that it has at its discretion to fund different programs for the Jewish people, not just in Israel, but also abroad. So today I'm going to be speaking with Rabbi Pesach Lerner. Now, Rabbi Pesach Lerner actually heads one of the lists running in this election. It's called the Eretz HaKodesh, the Holy Land list. But he only got involved in this in the last election. So I want to take advantage of speaking with Rabbi Lerner to understand why he got involved, right? It's a whole Jewish politics, it's a whole world in and of itself, and what he has learned during the past 5 years that he has been involved, and understand everything. Anyone who listens to me at the Pulse of Israel, you know, I am here to talk about things and inspire people, not just with the beautiful and inspiring happy stuff taking place with the Jewish people in the land of Israel, but exposing issues that people don't know about and should know about in order to take a more proactive stance in their lives, in their Jewish lives, and in their connection to the Jewish state of Israel today, in order that we can all together be part of making the situation even better. So with that, I want to bring in Rabbi Pesach Lerner. Shalom, Rabbi Lerner.
Shalom, shalom.
So first of all, I'd love to understand what made you jump into the world of the World Zionist Congress in the last elections 5 years ago. Personally, I know you from decades ago. You were involved in the National Council of Young Israel. Since you've always been active on different levels of leadership for the Jewish community and connected and active for Israel, why'd you take that leap into the World Zionist Congress?
I often ask myself that same question. About 6 years ago, um, Yaakov Hagoel, you just mentioned, paid a visit to New York and had a meeting with a couple of us. And he began to explain to us
Just
the
to clarify,
elections.
Yaakov Chaguel, for those who don't know, he is the chairman of the World Zionist Congress today.
He was not 5 years ago, but he
Right.
came and he met with a bunch of us and he started explaining to us what the World Zionist Organization is. I knew a little bit from my time when I was at the National Council of Young Israel involved. And he gave us a little more background and some of the information. And we kind of looked at each other and said, why are we being talked about, discussed, and things done around us, but we're not at the table? And I'll explain in a minute. And a couple of us at the table decided we should participate. It was a religious right-wing meeting. And my other colleagues, for one reason or the other, said, I can't do that publicly. And Pesach Lerner said, okay, I think it's an important cause, and let's jump in. And bottom line is, what we're hearing. So much of what I'm going to answer now is not necessarily what I knew 5 years ago, but
Okay.
you'll understand the situation. The World Zionist Organization started 125 years ago, whatever it was. As you mentioned, the first Zionist Congress in Basel. And I'll give you a good story. It wasn't supposed to be in Basel. It was supposed to be in some city in Germany. I'm not sure it was Berlin or anything else. And historically speaking, the reform movement was against Zionist state.
Right.
So they reserved every hotel in that city.
To
And
ensure that the
when
World Zionist Congress couldn't meet in that
cannot meet
German
in
city.
this in the city. And I guess whoever decided to change it and went to Basel. So Basel was second choice. But the World Zionist Congress is composed of itself, the Jewish agency Keren Kayemet Israel, which is known as JNF, but JNF Israel is different than JNF America, and and uh, those are the main three. Okay, and they have a combined budget of close to a multi-billion dollars a year. And people ask me, well, it's a lot of money. You know, when I grew up, there were blue and white pushkas you had for JNF. You put your nickels and dimes in, and that bought
Right,
some of the land, which is
right.
true. And perhaps there was a time there was a lot of philanthropy. But the truth is that the $2-3 billion, as we'll mention in a minute, doesn't come from blue and white boxes and doesn't come from philanthropy. The WZO in its time started buying land in Israel. You want to start a country, you have to have a place to go. You have to own land. And they collected money from across the world and they bought land in Israel. And they ended up buying, I'm giving you round numbers, they own about 15% of Israel today. The mainland, Jerusalem, parts of Tel Aviv, Bet Shemesh, and others. And then, like Israel, like every other country, charges the buyer a one-time purchase tax. When you purchase an apartment, you purchase a home, you purchase a building, there's a one-time purchase tax of, give you round numbers, 8, 9, 10%. That adds up in the course of a year. World WZO, Keren Kayemet, Kakao JNF made a deal with the government. Since we own about 15% of Israel, let's just make a deal. We'll take 15% of your purchase tax because it's our land. So if you take 15% of the purchase tax, of all the purchase tax paid in any given year, the numbers for 2023 come out to be that Kakao JNF earned about 9 billion shekel. Now let's put it into, I'm going to make it simple. $3 billion? That's $3 billion. And where does it come from? It comes from the ownership of the land sales. But let's go back a step. If somebody was in Europe and bought land in Israel and didn't make it through the Churban, didn't make it through the Holocaust, and they have no family, who owns the land?
The state should own land.
Well, the state didn't own the land. The state. Kakao owns the land.
Right.
Okay. Kakao has a lot of money invested in other businesses. Kakao has their own bank. You can only imagine how much money Kakao has in their own bank.
Which bank are you referring to?
Bank Kakao. You don't know about it. It was a Bank Kakao. That's what I'm told. I haven't opened up an account, but that's what I understand. And the rumors are they have 10, 20, $30 billion in the bank. So that's where the money comes from. Okay, today. And as they say, the money belongs to the Jewish people. And our answer is, wait a minute. The Orthodox and the Haredi, the Orthodox community is part of that Jewish people. And by the way, who are the Americans today that are buying apartments in Israel, houses, apartments, okay, and paying that purchase tax? I would suggest that the majority of those are the Orthodox community, and a good piece of that is from the ultra-Orthodox community. Just go into Yerushalayim, go, okay, Ramat Beit Shemesh, and so many other places. So that money is coming from the world. And that's the justification to have a World Congress, because the money belongs to the world. Okay, so Kakao was built to invest in the land, to buy the land. Okay, you'd be difficult to find the lands that they bought over, excuse my expression, the Green Line in Judea and Samaria in the last 30 years. Why?
They haven't. They ideologically have refused to purchase land in Judea and Samaria.
Okay, why? That's the job. Because the way the system works, let's talk about the system. The World Zionist Congress is made up of 3 pieces. Knesset. If you're a Zionist Knesset party, then you get seats to the Congress. Make it simple, 2-to-1 ratio. One Knesset member, 2 seats. However, the left, the Arabs are not Zionist members, and the Haredim are not Zionist parties. So it's everything else in the middle. Then you have the United States of America, which has historically had elections, like we're going through at the moment. Okay, there are 152 seats, there's elections, a lot of parties, everyone's vying for it. In Europe, South America, and the rest of the world, there were never elections. People went to the back room. If you remember the Zionist Federation locally, which is a story in itself, you went to the back room and you divvied out the spoils. And for many, many years, it was extremely difficult for a new party to come in. Well, new parties are coming in. And now there's going to be elections all over the world because that's the only democratic way to do it. And the World Zionist Court has dictated certain guidelines. Okay, so now let's go back. That's the system. Okay. But depending on how many delegates a party or a coalition of parties have, that gives them representative seats on the board of directors of the WZO, of the Kakal Keren Israel, and a section of the Jewish Agency, which is owned half by Kakal and half by the American Jewish Federations.
And
So
Rabbi
the more
Lerner, before you continue, I just wanted to give you context because I've already had some interviews with some of party members of some of the other parties, and one of the cases that have come up that I've used to explain the situation for people was actually told over by Yaakov Chaguel in my interview with him, and he said, "Listen, the past year after October 7th, there was a decision to provide equipment to the rapid response teams in communities all across Israel." And it was the ideologically left-wing progressive parties from the Reform conservative movement together with their partners here in Israel who voted against that decision because they were against providing that much needed equipment to communities in Judea and Samaria. And that, in a sense, is also lends the explanation of why the JNF, Kakal, have not purchased land in Judea and Samaria for 30 plus years, because it was the progressive left that took over the institutions of the state and used those monies for programs that they wanted ideologically, and not that were for all the Jewish people or for all Jewish causes if it was the right-wing religious ideology.
So take that concept, which is correct, and I'll tell you some stories in a minute, and add it to the point that they don't believe in the Torah, our Torah. So they've used much of their money to hire law firms to go to the Israeli Supreme Court to challenge the Orthodox lifestyle. Okay? Now I'll give you a couple simple examples.
Break that down for a second. You're saying that money that were part of these billions of dollars by the World Zionist Congress is used to file lawsuits in
There's a
Israel?
step in the middle. Hold on.
There's a step in the middle?
There's many ways to get monies out of the system. There's existing programs where you can apply and get support. But it's something called the streams. Okay? Many years ago, the Jewish Agency and Kakal and the others decided to allocate funds to the streams. Reform, conservative, and Mizrahi, representing the Orthodox. Interesting point. Reform got 40%, conservative got 40%, Mizrahi got 20%. Math doesn't add up. Okay, but that's a fact. Herzog Kodesh came along, and thank God we're now beginning to get our share. Okay, the goal is eventually 25, 25, 25, 25. That means the Orthodox will get each 25, and the Reform will get 25, not 40. But those millions are given to the streams. Do what you want. Okay, the Reform took much of their money, gave it to the Reform Religious Action Committee, okay, who have spent serious money hiring law firms to go after the Orthodox community. Now, I'm going to give you simple to more. There's something in Israel, in the Torah world, called a kosher cell phone. Okay? You don't want your kids to have access to an iPhone with all the internet applications and everything that's on it. Or you're sending your daughter to a seminary. The seminary doesn't want the distraction or the issues with an iPhone or yeshiva. So there was such a thing called a kosher phone, which means it has a certain prefix, and that SIM card and the phone can only call, maybe text, whatever the case may be, but you can't access the internet and everything that goes with it. Okay. And by the way, as we progress in our lives, even the secular world already is saying that these things are no good. There's a rule coming up in New York State, and I'm not sure where it is, that you walk in with a cell phone, you put it into a location, you pick it up on the way home. Public school, not yeshiva.
Right.
Public schools can't
Right.
use cell phones, iPhones during the course of the day. You hand it in, you put it into a locker. Even as a discussion, even during lunch, can you get it back? This is the public school system,
Right. And it's been
elementary and
known for
junior high.
years. It's been reported upon for years that the senior technological leaders of Silicon Valley send their kids to schools where there's no electronics allowed because they know the dangers of what they work with and they don't want their kids dealing
Okay,
with
okay.
it.
So the reform movement and others went to the Supreme Court challenging the validity of a kosher phone
It's insane.
because a kosher phone is racist. Why is a kosher phone racist or whatever? Because on a kosher phone, you can't call the alternate family hotlines.
The
Now,
what?
the LGBT hotlines, emergency lines, or help
Oh,
centers.
okay.
Okay. So they went to court, and the court said they're right, it's illegal. And it went, don't get me exact, 2 years and systems and changes in government until they were able to get the phone law back. Because they said that apparently the case wasn't technically proper, etc. Well, believe it or not, last month the reform movement went back to court, challenging the validity and legality of the kosher phone. And I'm told, I haven't read it, it was a 500-page brief, that they've adapted what they wanted so it wouldn't be thrown out in the technicality. Now, what does anybody care what kind of phone I have or my kids have or the seminary and yeshiva require it? Okay, but that's where that money is being used for.
Right. And I want to give
Okay,
another example of people to understand in terms of, again, the ultra-Orthodox world in Israel, educational system separate between men and women, girls and boys. Even in the national religious public, they're separate institutions for most of this. Um, when they started to want to get ultra-Orthodox women in Israel to go to the workforce, they set up special college or training programs that was for women only because they won't go to programs if it's men
or
and women
men only,
combined. What?
or men only, or men
Women,
only.
right, either for men or women only. And then the organizations you're talking about use the money to go to the courts and call out that for the courts to say that it's illegal because it's discriminatory that men and women are separated. And then that put threw a wrench in the whole program of getting ultra Orthodox women to be educated in order to join the workforce. So on the one hand, the secular world's always like, women don't work. Oh, they're so discriminatory. No, that now they go to separate programs in order to get work. That's discriminatory, and it's like the hypocrisy. So you're saying that that money from the
Much
World
of
Zionist organizations given to the reform stream is used to fund these lawsuits that bog down our court system, which is really an ideological war against the religious lifestyle.
and right. And what do you care? What do
Right, and
they
what's
care? If
right,
what's it in it for them?
right.
In addition, there was a law in the books. There is a law in the books that if you have a two-parent family with kids, and that family's income is below a certain level, then that family's entitled to what for the American people, food stamps and welfare and daycare, etc. The reform movement went to Supreme Court and said the law says two-parent working. She's working, but what is he doing? Now he may be in a kollel, in a Haredi institution, in a Mizrahi institution,
Oh,
in any institution. He can be learning whatever the case may be. And the court cut the benefits from thousands, if not tens of thousands of families. Now you're taking away food They're not rich to begin with. You're taking away bread and butter, basics from kids. Now, the Supreme Court put the law on hold. Eventually, after a period of time of 2 or 3 years, I think, don't quote me on it, the Supreme Court said the law wasn't made for the men, it was made so the women can work, and they put things back again. But why is it their issue that my kids or grandkids or somebody's going to after school programs or they're going to summer camps and the budgets were cut? And we can go on,
Right.
but that's the problem. In addition, the reform and conservative movements were using their funding to push the LGBT agenda all over the place.
In the Jewish world and in Israel.
In the Jewish world. They were pushing a different religion, a new religion called Reform, that you can do all these things. You know, a bas mitzvah, a bar mitzvah, you can have it a Friday night, put on tefillin at the same time. It's mixed match. Okay, Yom Kippur is nice, but join us for Kiddush in the afternoon.
So what are you referring to? Give me something tangible. What do you mean using this money in order to push that agenda? Like
They
how so?
took their money and opened up synagogues, okay, and summer camps to teach their version. Okay, they are now suing somewhere that in many public schools, that Mamachti schools, that they are taught Tanakh. Okay, out of
The
a
Bible.
Tanakh historically.
Meaning in
And
Israel. They're suing because they
Israel.
don't want the Bible to be taught in Israeli schools.
No, they want their teachers to teach their version
Oh,
or their
teach their version
explanations.
in the state schools. Okay.
Okay. So in addition to harming the Torah community, they're harming family values. And the bottom line is, let me give you another story. Speaking of Yaakov Hagoel, Yaakov Hagoel told me many months back that the Prime Minister Bibi called him up and said, I have 40 million shekel, I think the number was, that I want to give to the families of the hostages and the wounded and the injured and the killed and everything else of the IDF. But in the government, we're so all over the place, I can't get it done. Will you take the money and distribute it? Yaakov Hagoel responded, of course. Helping out these families, it'll be an honor. It's our job. Well, everything in the system is a bureaucracy. They had to get a resolution. The resolution failed. Okay.
Because
Bibi. They're not helping Bibi. Okay. It's no different than what you mentioned earlier. You know?
Because it was helping Netanyahu, then the left-wing parties voted against it.
Okay.
And then so that 40 million was not able to be handed to those
Okay.
families.
Whatever Yaakov Hagoel had to do, he did. I understand it missed the second vote by one, and it passed the third time. But let me ask you a question. The Prime Minister is offering 40 million shekel to help the families of the hostages, the families of the wounded, the families who lost their loved ones. Okay, and it's voted down. So excuse me for saying something stinks. Okay, I don't know for sure how much money Kakal has in the bank. It's in the billions of dollars. When I ask somebody, why don't we have a meeting and allocate $1 billion to the north and $1 billion to the south and help build up the communities, help the families that are hurting, help the families of the soldiers, right? The north and the south took the brunt of it on both sides. Why aren't we helping them? I can't get an answer. Okay. That's the reason Eretz HaKodesh was created. Number one, because of the damage that they're doing to the Torah community. Okay, on a personal level, Judea and Samaria. Okay, and wherever. That's part of the paying taxes. They're going, right? Why aren't they part of the government? Why aren't they getting? Why are they receiving benefits? Why aren't they getting the same thing? Okay, the family values that have been challenged, and so those of you who know me or know us, we didn't go in to take the monies. Our mandate was try to change the system, stop the left from harming the right, religious right, political right, nationalistic right, religious right. Stop the left from hurting and creating havoc in the Torah community. And we done that. We're doing that. Okay. And of course, yes, if monies are going to these programs, there's a lot of programs out there that should be better run, right? A couple of years back, not a couple of years back, 2 years back, I was coming down our office on King George Street, and a professional lady, someone who works, stops us. She comes from a party on the left, and she says, I see you guys are really working. Are you running in the next Congress? I said, yeah. And she said, I hope you win. And we kind of looked surprised because she's coming from a political party on the left. And I said, thank you. Why? Because I have a job. I have the department that I work for. And I think it has a good cause. I won't mention the department because it'll come back to hurt. Okay. And I have a department and it has a good purpose. But I can't do the purpose of the department because everything's been changed to political. Everything's been changed to woke. And I joined this as a professional to do certain things for the state of Israel. I can't do it. Right? So it's not only the religious aspect. Okay, it's turned into where everybody gets their agenda. And their agendas don't really work with the needs of the Jewish community in Israel, to my opinion. Right? We're bringing in agendas from outside forces. Right? There should be money spent over the green line. Educational programs, youth programs, kids at risk. Right? There's so much money there. Why doesn't everybody in the world know Hebrew, know Ivrit? Why aren't we out there? Okay? People should be visiting, and they are at a war, etc. But there's so much good that should be done. And there's so much bad that is being done because of the control. And we ran to challenge that control, to challenge the status quo. There's been a lot of parties that have been in the system for a long time. And I'm sure they do good work, right? They do good work. But if you do good work and you allow the left to do their good work, then people are getting hurt in the middle, getting lost in the process.
And do you feel you see some changes over the
We
past 5
see,
years that you've been
because
involved?
number one, we ask a lot of questions. Okay, number
And
one.
no one
Number
asked
two,
before, I imagine. Yeah.
I can't say no one asked before. I wasn't there. But I get the feeling, we get the feeling the questions weren't being asked.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, it used to be, you get this, you get under the table, quiet, no one knows. Now we're insisting it be more public. We're insisting that conversations take place. We're insisting that there be more discussion. So everything is changing. Okay. Also, I think to the fault of the right, there wasn't a coalition per se. The right didn't get together completely as the left did. And one of my assignments that I've taken upon myself is to be sure that the right talks to each other and we work together. Okay. At various meetings and congresses and Jewish agency stuff, depending on the situation, when I walk in, I find the like-minded groups. And we're all on the same page. You have your order of priorities is ABC. My order of priorities is CBA. You're switch around, but we're all together. So when you have an issue and you're going to a committee, right, let us know and we're all going to show up. All right? Give me an example. The Jewish agency has a partnership program where they twin cities from Israel to cities in America, let's say. Tel Aviv was twinned with this, and Haifa was twinned with this, and somewhere else was twinned with this, and twinned with this. And we know the conversation was coming up. But we also knew there was no twinning in Judea and Samaria and the Golan.
Mm.
So one party, I don't remember which one at the time, who was it at the time? Kud, I'm not sure. I don't remember who it was. Took it as a mission. And we got the word out that everybody should show up to that meeting. And then somebody we believe it was Jewish aid meeting, put on the wall a map of Israel with flags where all the twinning was taking place. And guess what was empty? Judea and Samaria and the Golan. It was like glaring at you. And our side that was there, and to the credit, it was Likud and Mizrahi. I don't remember. Everybody was there, and everybody went after it. I got a friend over there. I got a friend over here. Somebody got up on the phone and said, I already spoke to my friend, the mayor in this city. He's waiting to do this. We went in as a group. Now, I don't know what happened at the end. The chairperson was very nice and proper. And she said, I got the message. We'll talk about it. I'll take it back, etc. But if we all started pushing, I can't see any acceptable reason why cities in Judea and Samaria were not being partnered by the Jewish Agency to America. I mean,
Right.
wake up and smell the coffee. It's not giving it away.
Right.
Right? It's not going anywhere. If anybody still thinks of a two-state solution, come on. Haven't we learned that lesson already?
Right.
Okay. So a lot of that stuff is going on. And what we've done is I had an interview not too long ago by an Orthodox reporter, but she was reporting for and she said, you have a nickname for you. I said, yeah. They call you the disruptor.
That's a good one.
I said, okay. I said, I'm not disrupting anything. We're just asking the questions. And let's go back to where I believe if Herzl were here today, he'd look around and say, what do I create? Let's change this thing. It wasn't made to be a political animal. It was made to be something important. Aliyah is important. Aliyah, until now, and I say this with respect, Aliyah was taken over by Nefesh B'Nefesh, by Josh Fass, because the Jewish agency wasn't doing the job. By Fass doing a good job. But even after Nefesh B'Nefesh, there's a piece that has to go back to the Jewish agency. And you get bogged down. And to their credit, when I challenge the Jewish agency, I have a question, I have a person, they work with me. But if they don't have somebody working with them, now they're opening up a new portal, be computerized, and if God willing, it'll work and it'll be much smoother, much easier, etc. Right? But why aren't we putting more effort and time into Aliyah all over the world?
Yep.
Okay, the money's there. Why aren't we putting more into the Hebrew language?
Right. Oh, and because not everyone understands, Nefesh B'Nefesh is only responsible for American Aliyah. So hence, there's no one out there to deal with the rest of the world.
Okay, and the people working in the Aliyah department in Israel are good people, but you need to multiply
Right.
the numbers. The office of Aliyah works 9 to 5 Israel time.
Right.
But if I'm in America,
People around the world have different
that's
hours.
2 to whatever. Change, update it. You're a salesman. Okay. Let me give
Right.
you another example. I'm not going into great detail. Okay. There are about 3,500 to 4,000 lone soldiers coming out of America, not including the rest of the world.
And it's unbelievable because when I served 30 years ago, there was very, very few. So it's so wonderful to see so many young kids with their devotion and connection to the Jewish people and want to stand up
Beautiful.
and serve with the Jewish people in the land of
Okay. Now let's be
Israel.
honest. Now, most of them were after October 7th. Let's be honest. Every one of those soldiers was wounded, either physically or emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody walked into that war and walked out the same. Okay? There are mental health issues. That's
Mm-hmm.
expected to be. You can't be in war and see what they saw and be under the gun and be shot at or who knows what, or see their comrades killed and not have it affect you.
Yeah, I have two sons who served, and one of them just got married last week.
Mazal tov.
Yep.
Mazal tov. The Jewish Agency has a program called Wings, I think it's called. If you're a lone soldier, the Jewish Agency will be there to help you out. Okay. Now, if a lone soldier comes back to America, let's say, and they're hurt, they're damaged, they're hurt, they're wounded in some form or
They still
fashion,
have
emotion.
PTSD.
Okay. You know what the Israeli government helps them with? How much money, how much the Israeli government helps them in America?
No.
Zero. The Jewish Agency and this Wings program and Kakao, WZO, Jewish Agency, the whole bit. You know how much they help these soldiers when they come back to America? Another zero.
Zero. Wow.
Okay.
I mean, they only
I
get the assistance if they're in Israel.
If you're in Israel, you come back here, you get nothing. There's groups here that have sprung up. There's a group called Navot that was started by lone soldiers and parents of lone soldiers to help out, but they don't have enough. They're as a private nonprofit. They should be opening up an office in 7 or 8 states in America. They're not all in central New Jersey. Okay. I recently brought up the subject to the Kakao, Jewish Agency, WZO, and I told them there's no excuse. You fund so many silly things, stupid things. Okay. We can't tell these young men and women we have no money to help you.
Mm-hmm.
We should bring in Doge to Israel.
Yep.
Okay. And cut every budget by 20% and give it to this. The people at Wings are wonderful, but they don't have the resources. That's something that should be done in the Jewish Agency at Kakao and WZO. Right? Rather than giving monies to things that are politically oriented, religiously directed, there should be no religion. It's got to be in the middle, not to the right, not to the left. I'm not saying give only one or the other, but stop funding or fund everything or open it up. Right? Either fund everything or nothing. And the only way to do that is to have a delegate representation in the system, which those delegates turn into board seats on these organizations where you can vote. Okay, I'll give you an example. And then you tell me my time frame because we can go. I was at a meeting of, trying to think. I'm tending to say it's a Jewish agency, not Kakao, but I'm not sure. Okay? And the conversation came up, they had a committee called Connect one group with another group. Very important. One group of Israelis with non-Israelis, rest of the world, connect, talk, relate, beautiful. And they got up and they talked about, I apologize to your audience. And they got up and told me how they connected 14 lesbians from Israel with 14 lesbians from the United States. And we won't discuss the amount. I had a video and the numbers and the value and the money. I'm an Orthodox Jew, so you know where I stand, and you're Orthodox Jew. So I raised my hand and I said, I won't discuss the subject. I'm an Orthodox Jew. You all know what I hold. I want to discuss numbers. 14 and 14 is 28. Remember that. Do people in this room know how many Israeli Yordim there are? Israelis that have picked up and left Israel for good.
Hundreds of thousands. Millions.
Keep going. You can have a conversation between 900,000 to 1 million. Whatever you want. I said, I have a friend in California, and he often has college kids for his Friday night Shabbat dinner. Have them give a Shabbat experience, and they come out, etc. And he tells me I'm telling the board, the meeting this. And he called me last week and said, Pesach, I had 14 college kids in my Friday night table last week. I asked them their names.
Mm-hmm.
We went around the room. It wasn't David and Moshe and Yaakov and Michael and whatever. They were obviously Israeli names. You know, as Israeli names, it's different. They're beautiful names, don't get me wrong, but they're different. They said, "Oh, you guys are all Israeli? Yeah, we're all Israelis. I was born here. I came when I was a kid, etc., etc. I have grandparents in Tel Aviv, etc." Nice. So he asked them, by the way, do you know who Ben Gurion is? He says, after 15, 20 seconds of silence, some said, I think it's an airport.
Ha ha ha. That's so sad. It's so
So
true.
I
It's so
said to
sad.
them, you showed me 28 people connecting and 900,000 over here. And you know what the Jewish agency gives to the 900,000? I didn't say teach them religion, teach them Israel. They don't know who Herzl was. They don't know who Ben Gurion was. Didn't ask about Golda Meir or anything else. They don't know nothing.
Very good point.
Okay, spend some money connecting these 900,000 Israelis or the next generation.
And
Because
most of them are being
if they
lost to the
don't
Jewish
know
people.
if they don't know who Ben Gurion is, and it's a college student, where's that student going to be when it comes to fighting for the defense of Israel on college campus? Where's that person going to be when he or she has to vote? We're not doing that. So there's so much that could be done, and it's not being done.
Hmm. That's a very
Okay,
good point.
I'm on another committee. They talked about they have a seminar on the occupation.
Hmm.
I said, what? And the response was, well, if you have to talk to them, the other side on their level. I said, I have no problem with that. But once you call it the occupation, you lost the battle of it.
Yep.
Don't call it the occupation. Come up with it. You want to have a conversation and discuss it? No problem. But once you name it, the occupation as a subject matter, you lost that.
And these are the lay leaders of the Jewish Zionist organization standing up for the Jewish people and
And they're good
making
people.
decisions.
They're good people, but it's an attitude that has to change. There's we have a wonderful, there's a country there, right? Let's take advantage of all these billions of dollars and the opportunities and use it
For good.
for things that are undeniably good, not question this or that. Go through every program and say, what about this and what about that? And should we do this and should we that? And try to take take discussion off the table. No religion, not right, not left, not anything. It's got to fit the greater discussion of Israel.
Do you believe that if enough votes and a strong enough coalition can be put together, that such a Doge type of committee can be put together in order
I
to
would hope
change it?
so. I would hope so. Also, there's going to be a lot of discussion, a lot of votes, and all of a sudden, the right wing coalition should be able to say, we agree or disagree. They should put in new programs. Okay, and there should be no opportunities. Okay, and when you have parties on the left that are pushing for a Palestinian state and equal rights for the Palestinians, I'm not against Palestinians. I'm not sure that's the job of the Jewish agency.
It's
Okay,
not the
and I'm
job
not
of
sure that that's the priority over everything else. There's so much going on in this world, right? We should be spending millions or more on the college campuses. And they're spending money, but we got to double and triple it. We have to spend millions on Jewish education. Because if you don't get a Jewish education from the beginning, where are you going to go? We
right,
can
and it's
find
such
ways.
right, and it's
We
such a
can find.
problem that even religious families in America and certain communities are not able to pay the tuition for to send their kids to Jewish schools, and they're sending them to public
Well,
schools.
the question is how much money, how to allocate, but it's got to be part of the
Right, no, but it's
conversation.
a problem. It's a problem.
Why can't we put together a fund and any child leaving public school to go a Jewish school will pay the first year? Encourage it.
Right.
There's so many opportunities. I have a joke. Not a joke. It's a dream, a nightmare. Have you ever heard of the Bible contest?
Yes.
What's the Bible contest for your
Every
audience?
every year in Israel on Yom Ha'atzmaut and Israel Independence Day on television, there is a contest. It's like the spelling bee, where you have those who've been studying the Bible, and have reached the level to be entered into the national contest, then get into the contest where they're asked questions about the Bible, and there's a winner, and it's publicized nationally on
Different
television.
levels, adults, kids, youth, etc. Have you ever heard of the Israel contest?
No.
Because there is none. Why isn't there an international Eretz Israel contest? Okay. Start from Abraham. Okay. Start from Abraham. There's so much. The 12 tribes. Okay. What do you do? What are the plans? What are the mountains? Where? Give me a map. Give the kid a map. Can you tell me where Elad is, Beersheba, Jerusalem, Hebron, Tiberia, the Golan? Do we know where it is? There's so much. We have thousands of years of history in Israel.
Right.
Okay. Forget about 1948 and on. Not to forget about it. I mean, that's stage
Right.
two.
Even before we
The,
get to
the
1948 and
48,
modern
there's
Jewish
so much
history.
we can be doing.
Right, right.
All right. Make it fun, make it challenging. Okay, let's make baseball cards. Instead of baseball cards, we're making them Israel cards.
Right.
You
And
know,
that reminds me,
facts.
as a kid, I remember loving playing matching games where it was all about places in Israel and Jerusalem and the old city gates. Like as a kid, as a little kid, I was already had a love
Okay,
for
and
Israel.
facts.
Right.
Right.
Just these are little
Let's create. We have great talent in Israel. Let's create content, a
right.
website, the challenges, baseball cards. Instead of having baseball plays, you have places in Israel, activities, history, right? And it's not trillions of dollars or billions of dollars. Let's make learning about Israel a fun pastime for kids. Right? Let them change cars. I'll give you one Jerusalem for one Tel Aviv, for one Haifa. You know, how many people live there? Where was it? What are their landmarks? If the more we know, the more we'll appreciate.
Right.
So that's why we got in. We got in basically because the left was spending their time and their money harming the greater Orthodox community. Specifically, they're more Haredi, but the greater Orthodox
No, not
community.
just. It's harming the whole
Okay,
religious
all
lifestyle.
the religious community. Okay, and they're pushing, they're challenging family values. And nobody was pushing back. We got into pushback. Once we got into pushback, there's a lot of good things we can take advantage of. There are a lot of good programs that we will never benefiting. Okay, and a sense of priorities. The
Right.
fact that Bibi can offer 40 million shekel and they turned it down. Come on. These are
Right.
families of hostages. I mean, how would somebody who voted no look somebody in the face and say, I was going to give you money, but it's Bibi? That has to
And
change.
right. And just to give people's perspective, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, it really was only with the last election with Eretz HaKodesh running and joining the right-wing religious coalition that put an end to the hegemony of that the reform and conservative and the political left within the Jewish world were running the World Zionist Organization and the national institutions for decades. And then this last election started a change that you're referring to, and hopefully that change will continue.
Look, 10 years ago, there were 60,000 votes in total. Let's go back 15 years ago. 15 years ago, the World Zionist Congress had 30 some thousand votes in America. 10 years ago, it was 60,000. 5 years ago, it was 120,000. And today, it's already surpassed that in half the time. Number one, everyone knows about, no longer a secret. Number one. Number two, people get on all sides begin to realize there's money there. Why should I not get a piece of it or activity or program? And so it's extremely important that everybody vote. You're 18 and you're Jewish and you have American citizen, you live in America, etc. You check off the Jerusalem program, it's all there. Vote. You should vote. Your kids should vote. Your parents, your family, your neighbor, everything, right? Vote for the right wing parties, and there are quite a few. If you
Right.
like the fact that we're challenging the status quo, which I believe we're the only ones, and then vote for Eretz Kodesh. But it's important to be educated. It's important to know what's going on because these organizations are making decisions and making rules and creating things that affect each one of us in some form or fashion every day, whether the American scene or the Israeli scene, it affects us.
Right.
And there should be no taxation without representation. There shouldn't be things going on that affect you that you don't know about.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And that's the purpose of Eretz HaKodesh. Okay. And we've accomplished a lot. There's a lot more to accomplish. Okay. There's a lot of, shall I expression, bad to stop, a lot of good to do. Okay. And the more the right-wing religious and political nationalistic party get involved, we can change things.
Right.
Okay. To give money in Judea and Samaria not only helps the religious communities there, it helps the non-religious, secular communities there.
Right. And people
Okay.
don't even know this. Majority of the population in Judea and Samaria today is not religious. There's, I think it's
The,
a third religious, a third ultra Orthodox, and a third not religious.
the housing is cheaper. The communities are beautiful. Right? A lot more land, a lot more space. Depending on where you are, it's a little more dangerous. Understand that? But I guess many of those people are willing to defend themselves. Right? And as you said, when the war broke out, where did the able-bodied men go to war? Who was left in the communities?
The women,
The
the mothers.
elderly, the women, and they didn't have the weapons. Eretz HaKodesh, I was in Israel, Sukkot, October 7th. And Eretz HaKodesh went to work right away. Because in Israel, they keep one day. In America, there was 2 days. So Israel had a day ahead. And we ended up creating a platform and a fundraising. And we raised over $3 million in a short time to buy vests, night goggles, things that I can't tell you
Publicly,
on the
right?
air. Okay, I can't tell you publicly. Okay, what we purchased and what we bought. And there were drones and there were just warm clothing.
Right.
Okay, and nobody was prepared for this.
Right.
Right, food, and then at the end of the spectrum, their families were left without people earning. They didn't have the money. They didn't have this. I mean, people went to war with their sukkahs still standing in the backyard. So we ended up, working, raising money, and working with the organizations and trying to help out the soldiers and the families of the soldiers, trying to get the soldiers the items that they needed. It's you got to be there. And
Right.
today, as you mentioned before, we didn't know about it. We didn't realize it. But I think with our win, the right wing coalition had a simple majority. Not a big majority, but a simple majority. First time in history. And it's got to continue. So I'm
Right.
assuming people who listen to your show are right wing of some sort, and they have to get out and vote. Okay.
Yes. Every
Vote
Jew listening has to register. Just Google AZM elections or World Zionist Congress elections. Register
or Eretz
$5.
HaKodesh. Eretz
or
HaKodesh.org. You go through our system or anything else.
right.
Right? But vote.
Right. But register
Vote.
and
Get
yes,
everyone else
whether
get your vote. Get your people in shul to vote. Your
right.
businesses to vote.
Right. And
We
again,
have to put together a strong presentation because at the end of the day, the more votes will give you the more power, and then we combine with our representation across the world, and hopefully we'll sit together. The right of center, religious and nationalism will sit together because we have a lot of common areas. I say we agree in most things, and then people ask me, okay, what don't you agree with? And I say I leave it open for discussion because most of the stuff we agree with and we work together well, most of
right.
us. But the bottom line is it's extremely important and it's consequential. It's
Right.
consequential.
Right.
Okay. The money needs to be spent on good things, not attacking other people. The money needs to be spent on things that benefit the Israeli people, the Jewish people. And we're talking about very serious numbers of money. Okay. And these organizations need to be responsible for what they spend and what they don't spend.
Right.
Okay. And monies that are raised and where does it go and what does it do? And the process and the system, and et cetera, et cetera. And there's a Jewish tradition that goes back eons, right? Coming up now with the Pesach and the Passover Seder and everything else. And from there, 40 years later, we entered Israel, Eretz Israel. Okay. And the tribes, it was after the wars of Yoshua, Israel was divided into the different tribes at different neighborhoods. I challenge most of us to be able to take a map and tell me where was Yehuda, where was Benjamin, and where was Yisachar. This is history. Right?
And where is Asher and Naphtali up in southern Lebanon, which we're going to returning to?
Yeah, so all these things are important. It's extremely important. These elections carry more weight than anybody realizes. And everybody has to go vote for their own reasons and purposes. It's very simple. If we don't vote, that's a vote for the other side.
Right.
If we don't vote, because the principle, whatever you want to say, it's not going to stop things happening. Things are going on with us or without us. And therefore, in my opinion, the opinion of a lot of people, it's better to be with us. So we should be there, challenging those things that we feel are not proper, doing things that we are good for the state of Israel and for the people of Israel. Okay, it's enough already that Yehuda Sharon is a second cousin once removed. Okay, there should be equal funding for all of Eretz Israel. Okay, for the smaller communities, the bigger communities, the north, the south, not for sure. Okay, and we should take these resources and use them. Don't leave them in the bank. There's no excuse to having billions of dollars in the bank. It's an emergency. The emergency is here. Let's use it. Right. And I didn't separate between religious and non-religious. That wasn't the issue. Today in Samaria, it's part of Israel. The north and the south were hit by this war, being hit by, still affected. Let's take this money and help the people that need it. Yes, there are guidelines and how you do it and what you do. So let's put it together. They're very qualified people. Okay. And this is why the election is extremely important. Again, we're running because there are so many things being done against our community coming out of the system that no one knew about and no one challenged. And we're challenging it. Okay. And we're saying you giving money, use it for good things. And there's enough good things that we could all agree upon. Okay. But once you bring in politics and agendas, then I would say that wasn't the purpose of the World Zionist Organization.
Right.
And there should be there's enough things that we can all agree upon. I said Aliyah, in teaching the language and protecting Jews and educational programs and kids that are kids off the beaten path and that need to come back to society. And we can sit here. I am sure.
Empowering Jewish identity to deal with the growing anti-Semitism.
Jewish identity, being proud of who you are, what you are, and leave all the agendas out. We'd accomplish so much more. We'd be a lot more united. Okay, and it'd be a better place to be. And I think it can happen, and it should happen. And there are great leaders out there who will make it happen if they're given the resources and they're given the medical situations. I mean, just the wounded and the hurt from this war, right? How many of them don't have jobs? And I don't know I can't tell you what the army gives or government gives, but at a certain point in time it runs out. And these people have to live with the effects of the war the rest of their life. And why can't we help them and their families? There's got to be more giving and more doing. And it's there and it can be done. And the money belongs, as the other side says, to all of us. That includes you and me and whoever's listening. But it's only going to work if we go out and vote. Listen, I'm hoping you'll vote for Eretz HaKodesh because we are the most proactive in trying to stop the status quo, change the status quo. But there are other right-wing groups out there that have good agendas. Like I said, I think we're the only ones challenging the left. Everyone does good work with the challenge the left. But whatever it is, vote your preference, vote to the right, and make sure that you and your spouses and your parents and your kids over 18 and your neighbors and your go to shul with and your activities with, just walk around. Did you vote? Did you vote? Did you vote? And if you didn't vote, go home and vote. Don't push it off till the last day, because the last day comes and it's the day after. And especially now with the holiday coming up and we're busy, but it literally is supposed to take 3 to 4 minutes. If the system is working, which should hopefully it is, because it crashed the beginning week, first couple of days. But if you go in, it should take you less than 5 minutes. It costs $5 as a voting fee, registering to vote. You go in, there's a system, you get a PIN code, there are guidelines. Vote, please. It's important, because if, God forbid, we don't, and the other side does, then we're going to sit here and complain about this and that, and it's our fault. So that's the message. Vote. Hopefully you'll vote for us, because we're most, like I said, the most proactive, I think. And when we work for everybody. When we push over the Judea and Samaria, I don't ask. Let's get over Judea and Samaria. You're there. It's part of Israel. Let's go.
Right. Rabbi Lerner, thank you so much for this really deep dive to help people get a better understanding of the importance of the opportunities of these national organizations under the World Zionist Congress and what's available and the potential programming that can be used for it, and hence the importance of every Jewish person registering to have their voice heard. And again, like Rabbi Lerner says, there is a choice of parties that are part of this right-wing religious coalition to ensure that decisions can go in the right direction for all Jews, putting the politics ideologies aside. Eretz HaKodesh is one of those. Go to the website. If Eretz HaKodesh is it, vote for Eretz HaKodesh. You can see the other list. You can look through them, but register and vote. Rabbi Lerner, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, and Chag Sameach. Happy and kosher and safe Pesach for Jews in Israel and all across the world. Chag Sameach.
Amen. Amen. Everyone, signing off for another episode of the Pulse of Israel. Thank you so much for joining. I hope this helped blow your mind in a sense with more information and good information, and empower you on how you can be part of ensuring that we, the Jewish people, we take these redemptive times we are living through, and the holiday of redemption, Passover, and we don't just celebrate the past, but we empower ourselves to move forward and be part of the story today in making it happen today. That's it. Thank you. If you're not yet a subscriber to our daily belief-based, inspiring, politically incorrect truth about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world, what are you waiting for? Go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe. And we are a donor-based operation. We are heavily censored across social media platforms because of what we say. Hence, your donations help us do the work we do. So every once in a while, whether large or small, just click on the donate button on pulseofisrael.com. Shalom, everyone, and thanks for watching.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.